My flight instructor is going to be so proud of me when he sees me practicing for my sport pilot license. Hey, student pilot, what are you doing? Oh, hi, Mr. Flight Instructor, sir. I was just practicing for my sport pilot license like you asked me to. You're playing ping pong when you should be practicing your flying? But ping pong is a sport, isn't it? Student pilot, newsflash, ping pong has nothing to do with flying. Yes, it does. Watch me send this ping pong ball flying. Am I confused? Yeah, just a little bit. I don't know how he confused the sport pilot license with an actual recreational sport.
What if I told you there's a way to become a pilot, but without all the complexity of a traditional pilot license?
It's called the Sport Pilot License, and for the right person, it might be the fastest path to get you your wings.
But there are some very important trade-offs that you need to be aware of before you go down this path.
In this video, we had gone over the differences between the private pilot license, the recreational pilot license, and the sport pilot license. Now, many of you watching this video might be wondering, what exactly is the sport pilot license and what's the difference between that and the other ones?
In this video, we're going to break it all down. What it takes to get your sport pilot license, what you can do with it, what you can't do with it, and most importantly, whether it's actually the right choice for you.
The Sport Pilot License, often abbreviated as SPL, is the most accessible way to become a pilot in the United States. It was introduced by the Federal Aviation Administration back in 2004 to lower the barrier to entry into aviation.
Think of it like this. If the private pilot license unlocks the doors and opens up pathways for advancement in aviation, the sport pilot license is more limited and restricted in what you can and cannot do.
It's designed for people who want to fly for fun, without the time, cost, and complexity of a full private pilot license.
Let's start with what it actually takes to get your sport pilot license. You need to be at least 16 years old to solo, 17 years old to get your license, and you need to be able to read, speak, and understand English.
Now this is where things get really interesting.
For a sport pilot license, you do not need an FAA medical certificate. All you need is a valid U.S. driver's license. In other words, you are not subject to any minimum physical fitness standards for the sport pilot license, in the same way you would be for a private pilot license.
This alone opens the doors for many aspiring pilots who might otherwise be prevented from obtaining a private pilot license due to any disqualifying medical conditions.
Now that alone is either a deal breaker or a deal maker for many aspiring pilots.
You'll need a minimum of 20 flight hours, 15 hours with an instructor, 5 hours solo. You'll also need to pass a written exam and a check ride.
Now, just like with any pilot license, 20 hours is the minimum, not the average.
Most students realistically finish somewhere within 25 to 40 hours.
So, what can you actually do with a sport pilot license? Well, you can fly a light sport aircraft, carry one passenger, or you can fly during the daytime under VFR conditions.
And remember, no FAA medical required.
For a lot of aspiring pilots, that's the entire appeal right there.
All right, you've made it this far into the video. As a token of appreciation, I invite you to click on the link in the description below this video where you can get a free download of the Private Pilot Checklist Toolkit.
But here's where the trade-offs come into play. With a sports pilot license, there are a number of major limitations. There is no flying at night, no flying in instrument conditions. You are not allowed to bring more than one passenger on board with you, and there is no flying for compensation or hire.
You also can't just fly into busy airspace like Class Bravo, Charlie, or Delta airports, unless you receive additional training and endorsements.
So while the sport pilot license gets you access to flying, it definitely does not give you full freedom.
One of the main reasons aspiring pilots might consider the sport pilot license is the cost. Typically, you're looking at somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000.
That's significantly cheaper than a private pilot license.
Because you're flying fewer hours and using simpler, less expensive aircraft.
In terms of time, this is one of the fastest pilot licenses you can get. Minimum, 20 hours. Realistic, 25 to 40 hours. You could finish this in as little as 4 to 8 weeks, or a couple of months part-time.
This is one of the fastest ways to become a pilot. This is something that a lot of aspiring pilots overlook.
The sport pilot license teaches you how to fly safely. But it doesn't go as deep as a private pilot license.
What you don't get as part of your sport pilot license training include, but are not limited to, the following: advanced navigation techniques, night flying, instrument flying, flying in complex airspace, and extensive cross-country planning, just to name a few.
So yes, you are a licensed pilot, but your training is intentionally limited. All right, we're part of the way through the list. I just wanted to take a brief moment to invite you to hit the like button if you're finding the content of this video to be helpful. And be sure to hit the subscribe button as we will be producing more content for aspiring aviation enthusiasts like you.
The differences between the sport pilot license versus the private pilot license can be summed up as follows. The sport pilot license can be achieved at a lower cost, with fewer hours of flight training. But the trade-off is that your license comes with greater limitations imposed upon you as pilot in command.
With respect to the private pilot license, on the other hand, the flight training comes with a higher price tag, with at least double the minimum number of hours of required flight training. But the advantage here is that the private pilot license affords you greater flexibility, more privileges, and leaves the door open for advancement in your aviation journey.
The sport pilot license is about simplicity, and the private pilot license is about freedom.
The sport pilot license is perfect for recreational flyers, budget-conscious beginners, and aspiring pilots who just want to fly locally for fun, who don't have any plans to get into any type of advanced flight training, or who don't plan to pursue a career in aviation.
So if your goal is to just go out flying on a nice day, fly for like an hour, and then come back, just taking the airplane for a spin, then this might be all you ever need.
But the sport pilot license is not for everyone. If you want to pursue a career in aviation, if you want to be able to fly at night, if you want to be able to fly on long cross-country trips, if you want maximum flexibility, then
you will outgrow the sport pilot license. So here's the real question.
Do you want something that is faster, cheaper, simpler? If the answer to all of the above is yes, then go with the sport pilot license. Or do you want something that gives you more freedom, more capability, more long-term value? Then go for the private pilot license.
The sport pilot license isn't an inferior pilot license by any means. It's just intended for a different purpose, for a different type of pilot with different goals. Now, if you haven't already watched the video where I compare all three of the different pilot licenses, the private, the recreational, and the sport pilot license, go check out that video next. So what type of flying do you intend to do? Which one do you think would be more suitable for your situation? The private pilot license or the sport pilot license? Leave a comment below and let us know.